Test, testing, 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 testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Welcome, 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 welcome. Testing, testing, testing. Test, test. Test, testing, test, testing.
actually that are watching. Oh, we need to speak in this? You were just singing. I mean,
I know. I'm breaking the karaoke. One-eyed karaoke. It's ugly.
And so there are a bunch of people, more than in here, who are watching, and they're also sending.
Audio works.
Audio works.
I love the delay. It's really.
Yeah. So, and they've also started to submit questions for the end. But
Okay.
so do we have? Is everyone in from the office, just to make sure we start? So we obviously, as a company, first of all, really appreciate everyone. Who came in from the field and seeing some field as people in the field who don't, who are out there working all the time just to come in to see Sir, because every month we bring in a speaker, and often last time the person came by phone, so I really appreciate you being here in person. As you can imagine, he's a pretty busy guy, and he has had a very busy career as well. General Sattler, he graduated from the Naval Academy in 1971, and then was commissioned into the Marine Corps as a second lieutenant. Spent 37 years in the Marines, and obviously in various capacities, and retired in 2008. And his last assignment was the Director of Strategic Plans and Policy for the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is a big job. And during that 37-year career, as you can probably imagine, he graced many battlefields and all the way up to the Oval Office with tremendous bravery, and obviously served very honorably. And as you can imagine, those conversations in the Oval Office were very detailed, and conversations none of us will probably ever know happened, but he was intimately involved in a lot of very big things. And during that 37-year career, towards the end, when he was a general officer, obviously not as a generic officer, that is, a general officer means you put a star on your lapel. And he was up to 3 stars as a general. I told him before this is about overcommitting and under-delivering. I said, I'm sure I'll commit your bio to memory, until I started reading what he did as a general officer. I was like, I don't want to screw that up. So apologies, sir. I'm actually going to read what you did.
I'd be waving the white flag.
But it's so just humorous for a second. Okay. Assistant Division Commander, 2nd Marine Division. Director of Combating Terrorism on the Joint Staff, Director of Marine Corps Public Affairs, Commanding General of the 2nd Marine Division, Commander Combined Joint Task Force on the Horn of Africa, Director of Operations, U.S. Central Command, Commanding General of the 50,000 Marine and Sailor 1st Marine Expeditionary Force in Iraq from 2004 to 2005. He also recently retired as from the leadership chair for Vice Admiral James Stockdale Ethical Leadership Center at the Naval Academy. So he's done a lot of this. And as you can imagine, he's certainly asked by many companies, he sits on boards, gives motivational speeches, and given all of that, as some of you have already just heard from him today, he does that with tremendous humility, a lot of grace, and he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart, just to try to impart some of his wisdom through a very, very, very successful and admirable career.
So that's it. This is it. You got it.
So yeah. If you just
pass it back and forth.
Yeah. It's so.
All of me. Why not take all of me? Can't you see? Never mind. So I would just sum it up by saying, started out as a little kid in Pennsylvania, got to the Naval Academy through a wrestling opportunity. My college boards back then, you couldn't pay someone to take them, so I walked in with a 485 verbal, which shocks everybody in this room, to include the academy when I showed up. But I had about a 680 math, because I came from a pretty analytical high school. But graduated with a 2.22, and lower top of the bottom 10% of my class. That's what it's. But yeah, you're talking about, yeah. But the only reason I tell you all of that is because I'm a firm believer it's all about your work ethic, and it's how you can motivate and inspire the woman or the man on your right or on your left, and how you can come in with a can-do attitude with a lot of enthusiasm and be willing to pay dues later in life. I found out that studying does benefit you, but I didn't learn that till I was out of college. So, but later on in life, when you're under the pressure, and Command Master Chief, you know this, when you're on a ship, in an aircraft, in a squadron, on the ground with warriors doing whatever, they admire your competency. How good are you at what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to bring to the equation? And if you arrive in a job like you have arrived, you're going to fail, because tomorrow you're not going to be as valuable as you were today if you did not do something to enhance yourself, to make yourself better. So I'll make one more burst and then I'll turn the mic back over. But one of my favorite books, and I know you got John McChrystal's book out there, and he's one of my favorite leaders all time.
We just looked in the back of it, so that we just left.
Yeah, I looked up to see if I was in the book. I went, oh yeah. In case you're wondering, it's page 168 to 170. But I had a chance to do a lot of work with John McChrystal with two stars, without a whole lot of top cover, and him having tremendous firepower and competency inside the Special Operation Forces. But many a time we found the two of us saying, this is what the nation would like us to do. And we didn't go back to the White House. We didn't go up to the Secretary of Defense, because we knew we had kind of a broad idea of where our authorities were. And General Mattis, as our SecDef, and before that as a Marine, would constantly say, surround yourself with men and women who have a bias for action. Men and women who are looking for the opportunity to contribute from the time they hit the parking lot. There's something in the parking lot needs to be fixed. Somebody needs this, pick up paper. I have a bias for action from the time I hit the parking lot till the time the place is in my rearview mirror. And that bias of action means making myself better, making everybody I come in contact with better for having that encounter. Maybe you had to correct them, but on the other hand, maybe you got to shake their hand and thank them. And that kind of juice builds that energy within an organization. And then Stephen Covey's book, Speed of Trust. The trust factor is, he would state right in the middle, it's a combination of your character. What's in your wheelhouse of character? And the beauty of it is, everybody in this room controls their wheelhouse. You control your character. Whatever you were born with, you can build on it. Whatever you grew up in a great environment, a poor environment, you can change all that, because you own your character. So it's your wheelhouse of character times your competency, which I already talked about. And if you are a great woman or man of character, but you're not competent, they won't follow you, because it's a multiple. A 5 times a 0.1, the 5 goes down. So you have to constantly control and work on your character and your competency. And I go back to that 2.2 from the Naval Academy. All right, I got that. I didn't do well there academically. I tried to excel in other areas that I liked and I had fun at. But later on in life, I realized, going through life without constantly improving myself in the competency arena, as well as the physical arena and the leadership arena and integrity and your core values, all those are in here, that anybody can achieve anything they want. But the obvious thing is, they have to want it, and they have to want to go after it, not waiting for somebody else to give it to them. And the last thing I'll say is, there's another great line. I had a great boss that used to use all the time. Somebody would say, well, you're just lucky. And he'd hear it. He'd come out and say, let me articulate one more time. Luck is the confluence of opportunity and hard work. And if you're not willing to look for opportunity and grab it, and you're not willing to work hard, so when it does come, you're ready for it, then you're never going to be lucky. So stand by. All right. So Rush, want to give it back to you?
Well, actually, you can keep the mic. People don't want to hear from me. So I just want to ask you a couple questions. Oh, okay.
My favorite color is green.
So actually, but pulling on that, let's just pull back when you talked about the Naval Academy.
Sure.
Are there any decisions in the Naval Academy that sort of you were disappointed with at the time, and how did you overcome that as time went on?
Yeah, I think we're all everybody's going to face some disappointment in your life, and how you handle that's going to determine, peek into your wheelhouse of character. You're going to give everyone a look at that. And, and I wrestled while I was at the academy, and I wasn't the best wrestler on the team, but I had an okay career, and I ended up eking out a letter all 3 of the years I was eligible. But when it came time to elect a team captain, I was thinking, oh, wow, maybe I'll get to be team captain. Wouldn't that be an honor? And it didn't happen. They elected the better man. And I stand here and tell you that he was a phenomenal human being. And that was a crossroads in my life. Do I become that selfish whining individual who says, well, I'll show them they elected the wrong team captain. I'm going to lowball them. I'm not going to be part of the team. I'm not going to bring my A game every day into the locker room, helping with the underclassmen, etc. They wanted him. They got him. I almost remember, I'm embarrassed to say, having that little argument with, little devils over here with the pitchfork saying, screw him, just lay down. Man, we'll see how good he really is. And there's over here, it's, oh no, that's not who you are. That's not who you pretend. Do you pretend to be who you've been all these years, or are you really that individual? So when we walked into the wrestling room to start the season, there was Lou, the team captain, out there. I remember he looked at me. I walked up and said, hey, Lou, we got the best damn team captain in the NCAA. And the whole team, we all galvanized around, and we kept that attitude for the whole year. So I learned a little about myself because I almost took the bad path. I did. I almost listened to this guy because I was a little pouting, lower lip quivering. I've worked all my life. I've been captains before in high school, and I thought this was mine to have. And the truth be known, they elected the right guy. But the good news is I was able to turn myself around mentally and emotionally and come in and let the right guy know he was the right guy and stand behind him all the way. So I think that he was trusting me to be that individual, and I almost let him down. But thanks to a lot of things, I guess, in my life, I self-corrected before I committed, I would call it a mortal sin. Somebody gets promoted here in industry. Somebody gets selected to move up the ladder, 4 highly qualified candidates, and you don't think that the leadership, the HR director, that they're not tearing their hair out trying to get the right person for the right reasons, for the right job at the right time for the organization, and he can't pick all for you. And that'll happen to you sometime in your life. And I would ask you to think to me, and a little voice over here and a bigger voice, thank God, over here, that when that does happen, you are big enough to go congratulate and say, hey, congratulations. Let me know what I need to do to make sure that they know they made the right decision. You might not use those exact words, but I think that was important to be part of. I know you talk about family when we talked before, and you talk about team. You can't have a family if it's dysfunctional, and you can't have a team if people are out for themselves. So that would be my shot on that one. Anybody want to challenge or take me on, or, not physically, please. Remember, I gave you $20. I gave you $20. Yeah. If I see 40 coming, I'm going for the wallet. I got it. I used to have a right hand at work. Oh, good to meet you too. Well,
yeah. There is another question on that. So we have but on that, and we can pass it to people. Raise your hands if questions. We have some questions on trust, General. When we're a business, we're expanding, we're growing. We've added lots of people over a bunch of years, and that's obviously required more people, layers of the organization, layers of the organization. What we're also very familiar with, and people have read a lot about it, and we've talked about you as in the Battle of Fallujah, and there's certainly, if you go on YouTube, there's quite a few videos of General in Iraq in the Battle of Fallujah, and when you were there, which is obviously both historic and no room for error. Can you talk about really empowering those with trust? Sometimes folks who were less experienced, lower ranking, and just do you have any examples of how they rose to the occasion and how that all played out?
Sure. A real good example. There was a captain, and she was in charge of a convoy that had to go all the way from Camp Fallujah up to the Turkish border to pick up all the supplies we needed for the battle, the ammunition, the water, the food, all the things that we kind of take for granted. And the sergeant major came and grabbed me and said, hey, sir, the captain's going to be given the pre-convoy brief tonight. Maybe we ought to swing by and just listen in. So she did not know we were coming. She didn't even know we were there because we got to this big warehouse where she had her whole team in there. And the captain's probably about 20, maybe 28, 29 years old on the high end. And she had been a logistician, but now she's taken all these logisticians, warehousemen, suppliers, truck drivers, administrators, and a handful of infantry, and they're leaving at 10 o'clock at night, pitch black, and they're wearing night vision goggles. And she's going down through the protocols, like you have protocols we talked about in all through your company. Her protocols are critical. She's going through the protocols with the warriors who are about to go out in the dark all the way up hundreds of miles through Army territory, through Badlands, all the way up to the Turkish border. And they've got to be successful to bring it back so we can meet the timeline to attack in the big battle plan. We have to take the city back. A lot of pressure here. So she's in there. We walk in and she's got them all lined up in the way they're going to be in the convoy. There she is. She's walking along and she's drilling everybody. She goes, all right, you're the third vehicle. We get hit on the right-hand side. What do you do? And the corporal goes, man, I herringbone to the left. What's your gunner do? Gunner puts down fire to the left-hand side. And she walks down through grilling everybody. You're the radio operator. You're the forward observer. Where's the artillery? What are the call signs? Well, what if we trip baseline blue? Baseline blue, we trip into. She's just going down, back and forth, unrelenting with each and every person, not because she didn't trust them, but because she wanted them to know how important their job was for the survival of the team if they got hit. She goes all the way up, all the way back down again. She goes through, what if I'm hit? Who takes over? Ma'am, I take over. I do X, Y, Z. And after she gets done with all that, she looks around. She goes, anybody not all in on this mission? She asked that question. I went, holy heck. Anybody not all in? Room got dead silent. She goes, that's what I thought. She took her goggles and snapped them down. She goes, let's do this. Whoo, get goosebumps again. And off they go outside, started all those trucks up with the night lights, no headlights, little slivers, because your night vision goggles will blind out on the light. Pitch black. All you hear is the engines going, and you hear them one after the other in convoy heading out the main gate. While others are sleeping and others are standing on the wall and others are doing night patrols. She takes that convoy and off they go. And Sergeant Major turns to me. He goes, sir, where the hell do we get women like that? And I turn to the Sergeant Major. I go, I don't know, Sergeant Major, but we better get a whole hell of a lot more. This lady is awesome. And I don't even remember her name. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say. But if the Sergeant Major walked in, I go, hey, Sergeant Major, remember that convoy night? Oh, sir, that lady, that captain, she was awesome. All the way up, they get hit twice. They lose nobody. They bang a couple enemy, come all the way back down, 100% of the gear, 100% of the trucks, 100% of her people. And all she did was compliment humility. All she could do is talk about, the assistant patrol leader. She talked about the drivers, talked about the forward observer, the gunner, the first sergeant, not Sergeant Major or Command Master Chief, the first sergeant that was with her running everything. She would receive, if you tried to put a compliment her way, she deflected it immediately. And that's why they loved her, because that humble servant leader, she showed that competency, but she already had that trust by training them hard, working them hard, never giving them the opportunity to slack off, cut corners. You would think they'd hate her. But when you're in combat and they know rubber meets the road, survivability has to do with professionalism. They don't mind being drilled hard and worked hard if it has a purpose. Pressure with a purpose is what she brought to that team. So hard to figure that out, but each and every one of you are going to be in situations where you're earning that trust every day. You can't just at the 11th hour go, okay, we're in a really sticky situation. I need you all to trust me now. That doesn't work that way, because trust is earned each and every day, as is your character. It's protected, earned each and every day. So
on that, do you have any other wartime stories where, well, yeah, we all want wartime, about trust and how that played out in certain situations?
I was always, because when you got a 2.22, you're almost mandated to trust folks to come up with great ideas, and then you recognize those great ideas, you give them credit for them, and then you work within that idea to bring the whole team together to take that good idea and make it the best idea. And when you're going into combat, you don't want to have the second best idea. You want to have the best idea. So your ego needs to be put off to the side, and you can take little incremental improvements to that idea from almost each and every person on the team. So I know this will shock you, but sometimes I get excited in the I think I've got it. I've solved the problem. I come into the big Tactical Operations Center in Iraq, and everybody's in there, and I had an epiphany last night. This is how we're going to fight the battle. This is what we're going to do on the left flank we were all concerned about. But instead of going to the planning team and saying, I got an idea, make this better, I came across, I'd solved it, I had the solution. Danger in that, not danger in coming across with a positive idea for your team to work on, or if there is no time, there's no danger in making a decision and driving it home, because you probably have the most experience of everybody in the room. But in this case, everybody sat there in the room, 250 folks in the morning brief and the talk. And at the end of it, I said, okay, let's get back to the plan. Let's polish this great idea. I didn't say that. Let's polish this plan. Let's get it ready for prime time and let's rock. We're going to roll tomorrow. And everybody breaks away. And one young officer follows me all the way back to my office. And I walk in my office and I hear a knock on the door, like immediately behind me. And I turn. I'm a 3-star general. He's a lieutenant colonel. So it goes lieutenant colonel, then it goes colonel, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. So there's a pretty big gap in age, experience, and in power, gravitas based on rank, which I don't worry about, and he didn't either. Obviously, he walks in and he goes, "Sir, your plan's not going to work." Just like that. I go, "Well, glad to meet you too. Thank you very much." What side of the bed you get up on today? So I go, well, you got more, and then give me a little more than that. And he said, "Well, sir, I'm a new guy. He's a reservist. Just joined the unit 2 weeks ago. Nobody knows him." So you talk about somebody who felt empowered enough to step forward and say, "That's not going to work. People are going to get hurt," and they would have. But he lays out the flaw in the reasoning. And at the end of it, I look at him, I go, "Why didn't you stand up in that room? I told, well, sir, when I got here, you said you wanted people to challenge your ideas and your thoughts. But if I did it in there, I'm the new guy. No one knows me. I'm pretty junior. If the laughter started, I might be drowned out. I wanted to get you one-on-one because I thought by the way you talked to us that you were more concerned about getting it right than you were whether it was in the big room or here." And I went, "You're absolutely right." So when I got the chief of staff, I said, "Bring everybody back in the room." So I don't care if they're in the shower, get a towel around them. I want 100% of the people who were there who heard me display my great idea that we're not going to do that. And I'm going to tell them we're not. And I'm going to tell them, here's the new head of our planning organization for this idea. It's this young man right here, or it could have been a young woman, but you have to empower that person as a leader. And it could be a 4-person team that you're empowering them to be in charge of, or it could be the whole organization. But you as the senior person have to empower them to give them the gravitas with everyone else. And I just said, my idea is flawed. This gentleman right here pointed it out to me, Lieutenant Colonel X. So you now the assistant. I didn't make him the primary because we had a colonel running it. You will now be the assistant to the colonel to develop and flesh out this plan, and we don't have much time to do it. But it would have, not getting into the details, it would have left an exposed flank unintentionally, which if you have an exposed flank and the enemy occupies it, you pay dearly. The unit that has the exposed flank is focused here, and they get hit from the side. And to this day, Thanksgiving at a minimum, I go, thank God that I had this young man, and there were others in the command who had the same philosophy of coming back sometimes 3 times to change something that was not going to go well. So how do you create that environment as a junior leader or as a mid-level or a senior leader where you want to maintain the fact that you're in charge? It's a hard balance. I don't want everybody in the world going, "That's bull, we ain't doing that." That's not what this is all about. But it is when you make the wrong call and it's going to result in the wrong result, that men and women in the room have the moxie and they have the green light from you to move forward at the right time, at the right location, not to get in a shouting match, and be heard, have their voice heard. And that you're willing to open your ears and hear it, even if it means you got to go back and say, "My idea was bad. We're going to move out with this one." So
That's great. I'll keep going with questions because I've got a lot of them, but I want to make sure.
You let everybody know who's watching on the screen if they have a question, they can just type it in.
Okay, yeah, if you're watching on the screen, if you have a question, just type it and it'll come on the screen and we'll read it off.
When is this going to end? Help. You have cameras? I want to know who did that.
So would that be your primary example, which is important, something that we discussed about, speaking truth to power.
Truth to power.
Yeah, and which is really interesting concept, and just creating an environment where that is embraced and people feel comfortable doing that. Would that be sort of the primary example that you would want to share?
I think it comes in. It's like Neapolitan. It comes in very scary flavors. The younger you are, the more junior you are. And I've gone to businesses where they rode the business into the ground. The CEO was a crook, and the COO didn't have the guts to stand up to him. And all the other C's squared, and the people below all needed if you need your job to the point where you're willing to compromise your uncompromising standard and you're willing to wear out your wheelhouse of character, and then it's time to move on. And all of these junior officers could have easily said, wow, last thing I want to do is put a sharp stick, in the eye of the boss and his excited, great idea. But they were of such character that they were willing to risk it all. I would hope that they knew I was sincere when I said, hey, I want to know when I'm wrong, because I am not omnipotent. I seldom have the right answer coming out of the chute. And I think they absolutely jumped on that. There was one other time when, and this is the humility factor, which I think trust and humility go hand in hand. I don't trust anyone who's not humble. I don't, because I, me people will default towards I, me in a crisis situation. So we had the fight broke out, and we were moving down on the right flank. We had a young lieutenant with 3 platoons. He had about 48 to 50 warriors that they were attacking on the right flank, and they got in some really, really tough situation. And we're monitoring it in the talk. We can hear what's going on. And when the sergeant major and I head out that way later on that day, after the battle had kind of calmed down, we had saved that side thanks to his heroic effort and the great performance of his platoon. So I talked to the company commander, who has 4 of these platoons in his company. He said, yeah, that's the one right over there. So I'm heading on over to go meet the lieutenant, and there's the 3 sergeants. Each sergeant owns a squad of 12 warriors, 12 to 14. So I'm on my way over. They recognize the sergeant major, myself, and the command master chief coming. And they come over and they go, sir, you should have seen our lieutenant. You should have seen our lieutenant. He was unbelievable. Under fire, under pressure, he was just phenomenal. And then one sergeant goes, sir, you would have swore he was triplets, because it seemed like there were 3 of him on the battlefield, going where he needed to be, exposing himself when he had to, but not recklessly, but motivating and inspiring the team to keep moving and keep moving. Just accolade after accolade being piled on to the lieutenant. So I look over and the sergeant major goes, sir, there's a lieutenant over there. So we walk on over there, and I say, hey, Lieutenant, how you doing? Commanding general of the, and he looks at me, he goes, sir, you should have seen my sergeants. You should have seen my sergeants. They were marvelous. They were everywhere, exposing. So first of all, you go to the junior rank and file, and they revered this young man for what he had worked them hard, trained them hard, took care of them. But then when the chips came, when it hit the fan, he was right up there, right next to the fan, motivating and inspiring. But when I go to him, it was just another day at the office, is the way he looked at it. And all he wanted to do was heap the accolades like that captain did when you tried to shake her hand and tell her you did a marvelous job here. So the lesson to be learned, these were 2 of the best organizations within the 50,000 that we had. But the one common thread, in addition to having character and competency, was also that humility factor, which both of these officers in both those situations displayed. So I'm a big humility fan.
Yep. There's
Does anybody else have?
There are some questions. So people have wrote some questions prior to your arrival. Yeah. Well, on that, you actually just mentioned thread. One that came in is, what's the biggest threat you've ever faced, and what was your approach to combat it? And in general, what do enemies have in common, and is there a common thread?
Wow. So biggest threat, that could be a moral issue, or it could be when you're inside an organization, what is a threat that you might do something wrong to lose? My biggest fear would be to lose the trust within the organization. I think it's Gandhi. Gandhi has a great quote that says, once a leader's motive becomes suspect, everything he or she does becomes tainted. If everybody in the organization does not believe you're in it for the good of the organization, the mission, the vision, the values and the core values that the organization has, if they think that's all trumped up stuff and it's just all paper, then you're going to react based on in your own self-interest when it gets dicey. You've lost it. You cannot regain that trust. I know Covey's book, he has all those chapters about maintaining trust, all the factors that go into trust. And I think that's a great book. Then there's one fictional chapter I call it. It's called Regaining Trust. I don't think in a big organization you can ever Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, strike that from your memory. You never heard what was just said right there. I always love that line when the judge says, you can't remember any of that. Everybody got it? Poof, it's gone, because it's in there. And when you display that kind of breach of trust to the organization, I think it's over. I think you got to go. You got to be moved. I don't care a damn how competent you are, but you have violated your trust within the organization. So probably the biggest threat was that Battle of Fallujah. It had to be. We were told we had to get the weapons back from the town. We tried negotiating. The last night we went in, I had Ambassador Newman with me, and we went in, met with the head sheikh, and the head sheikh just said, no, we don't have any weapons. You never gave them to us, was the basic, with a whole lot of other BS around that. But at the end of it, I got up and I looked at Ambassador Newman thinking, hey, you're the State Department guy. He's a great individual, but he just looked at me like, this is your show. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I'm going to commit 10,000 plus individuals to mortal combat here in a matter of the next few seconds, even though I've been thinking about it. What'll I say? What'll I do? But he basically said, you're out of line. We don't have any weapons. And the ultimatum, the red line, was give us the weapons tonight, have them lined up. We'll take them back out, and then we'll continue to negotiate the city and how it's going to be run. And I just looked at him and said, that's it. Talking's over. Next time you see us, it'll be on the battlefield. And then I said something really stupid because you don't know what to say at this time. I said, next time we see each other, one of us will be dead, and I will be standing over you. Yeah. And it's in a book. So there was a State Department guy there who put the quote in. And it's like, later on, guys go, where'd you come up with that? I go, I didn't even know I said it. It was just, so think all those things through, because you never know now who has a camera on or a recorder on. But in that day, I really felt that's it. We gave you the opportunity. But then the whole night that night, knowing that 10,000 men and women were going to go into the town within 48 hours, I guess I'm not embarrassed to say that all that pressure came in on me, and I got the dry heaves that night. I just started to dry heave in my little room all by myself, right next to the talk, and they had a guard outside who, in case the insurgents came over the wall, his mission was to shoot me and not let me be taken prisoner. I know that's why they had him there. But all of a sudden, a little knock on the door. I opened the door up, and here's this sergeant, and he's the guard, and he's got a Coca-Cola can in his hand, and he's got a glass, and he has an old Marine Corps sock. You can't make this up. And he looks at me and goes, sir, when I was young and I'd get, I had an upset stomach, my grandmother would take a Coke and pour it through a sock and flatten it. And then I would drink it, and it would make me feel better. So I'm thinking, where'd that sock come from? No, I'm thinking, wow, that's very, very thoughtful of you, young man. Thank you very much. He goes, sorry, I guarantee it worked for me every time. I think you'll be fine if you just do that. So I walked in, I got the glass and the Coke and the sock, and I went, hey, I'm all in. Poured it through the sock, drank the Coke, and boom, fell asleep. But I just think and I was a little embarrassed. I thought maybe I'd lost my edge for a little bit, but I think all I could see, because we talked to all these units, and you're looking at all these 18 to 23-year-olds was 80% of the force. And you're looking at them, we got the best leadership, we got the best weapons, we have our fires planned, and the hospitals have moved up, the helicopters, medevacs, everything that we could possibly do to put the advantage in our favor. But you're thinking to yourself, you're not all going to come back. It just doesn't happen in this business. And that was, I think that's what got me that night. So as far as threats go, I think the competition thing, you always need to be searching for, and you have research and development folks, you have a development team down that's looking at the next best. When you get the award for developing a product that the market loves, by the time they type the award, print the award, hold the ceremony, somebody else is already getting better than you in that arena. So we talked before about the word complacency. I think the biggest threat going against a combatant force or going against a peer competitor in any industry is becoming complacent. Build your reputation, be proud of your reputation, but be constantly growing your reputation. What's the next best idea? And we got to get it first. I think that would be my come around concerning threats with inside an institution against an enemy or against a competitor.
Another question, if we bring it up a level, when you're on the National Security Council, what was could you just talk about how decisions were made, the atmosphere in the room, and bring this? Obviously we're going from battlefield to the highest echelons of office, and being in that room and what that was like.
Okay. Of course, I am not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm a registered independent, have been my whole military career, because I just didn't ever want to have to decide if I didn't like somebody or like somebody based on my political, whatever party I was in. So I was there during the Bush administration, the Bush 2, and I spent 2 years, the J5 strategy and policy, when the deputies committee meets, that's below the national commander, the National Security Council, and the president when he's in the room. So these are all the assistant secretaries of. So I would have a seat at the table during that. But it was bare knuckled. It was you were conscientious. We treated each other with dignity. But if even if it wasn't my lane, it might be something State Department wanted to do, which wasn't military oriented, but it had to deal with national security and what might require military later. I was expected, and I felt it was demanded of me to be the spokesman person for all the men and women in uniform, and really lived it that way. First time I'm riding over with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Pace. He's heading over to the White House. He turns to me. I've been there maybe 3 months. And he said, "This is the first time you're going over with the president in the room." And I said, "That's correct, sir." And he said, I want to make one thing very clear to you, and I want you to listen to me. If I ever say something wrong in that room, you have to correct it before the president adjourns the meeting. Do you got me? I said, "No, I'm a sycophant by trade, so a suck up." So I go, "Oh, sir, you'd never say anything wrong. That would never happen." And he goes, "Stop. You got me? You understand that? I'm giving you the green light. I'm the third base coach. If I say it wrong, you round third and go to home. You understand that?" "Okay, boss." So about 4 months later, we're in there, and we're not getting into the issue. The president turns to General Pace, XYZ, and he goes, ABC. ABC was right on Friday, but it changed over the weekend. So I'm sitting behind him, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. My heart, I was like, what? I got a mouse in my pocket here. It just kept jumping. And then it was like, oh, he's totally wrong. The president's about to make a decision here. It seems like in the movies, just go, "Oh, yeah, Mr. President, he blew it." But so I'm sitting there, and finally, I eke out this like squeak, like it was like that, like Pee Wee Herman. I think that's what I remember. I went like that, and the president goes, "What the hell was that?" He looks over, and it was Secretary Rice, and it was Secretary. I think it was Secretary Gates at the time. Secretary Rumsfeld already left, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and I'm right behind him. I mean, the president's like right at that table, right there. You can almost feel his breath. And he goes, "What was that?" And then General Pace goes, "John, you got something to say?" And I go, so here's what I said. I said, "Chairman, you just told the president Friday's information perfectly. But, sir, shame on me. I didn't get a white paper to you. Over the weekend, XYZ changed, country A, B, C, D, because I had a great staff that had me all prepped up." And I said, "So what you told the president's wrong." And the president looks down at Joe Pace and he goes, "Is that true, Pete?" And he goes, "Hey, if John says it's true, you can take it to the bank and tell the president what's right then." So I articulate what's going on. The president goes, "That changes everything. Pete, are you sure?" And he goes, "Take it to the bank," just like that. And the president goes, "Well, that changes everything. Here we go." And changes what we were about to do. Because General Pace knew if you break the huddle and everybody walks out, things start happening inside the National Security Council. So then they cleared the kids' table, we called it. Okay, all the back wallers, so all the kids get up and walk out, and the adults are in the room. We're out in the lobby hanging spoons and doing all that fun stuff. Except me, I'm walking back and forth going, oh boy. Hope I did the right thing here. So I walk out, General Pace walks by me, he goes, "Grab your cover." We rode over together. So he gets in his sedan, I'm sitting next to him, and the driver's, I swear he's in reverse. We're like, we're moving like this. I just want to get back to the Pentagon because it's quiet in the car. General Pace turns to me, he goes, "I blew that one, didn't I?" I went, "Oh, not really, sir." Stop. As soon as you started giving the explanation, I remember the white paper, you sent it home with me. I read it, but it just didn't click on me. I go, "Sir, it's not like there wasn't 12 inches of stuff you took home to read over the weekend." So, and then he goes, "But you did what I wanted you to do. You did it exactly right. And that's why I wanted to have that conversation with you to clear you. So if there was any doubt in your mind, I wanted to take that off the table." I go, "Well, sir, you did a good job on that," because I felt this is what you'd want me to do. I wish I could have said, and I hope I would have said, "This isn't right. I better correct him now." But by my boss taking that off the table 4 months in advance of when it actually happened, I rounded third and I was digging for the plate, with my info. So then I look at the driver, go, slow this vehicle down a little bit. I think we ought to take our time getting back to the Pentagon and give me one of those cigars out of the glove compartment, those deals. But the bottom line was I learned from that any time you want to empower people, you have to do more than just say, you're all empowered to think your mind and speak your mind. No, you've got to pull it out of them. You have to make sure they really, really understand that you want them. You want them to take your idea and make it better, not just say, like that old Guinness commercial where they go, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. They're toasting each other. You get too many brilliants in the same room, and you're going to get a sloppy solution coming down the pike that everybody signed up for, and they haven't done you as the boss or the company or the organization justice. So.
I want to I'm asking, first of all, I want to open this up. Do people have questions at this point? Greg, please. What, do you want to?
They want to hear you. Your public wants to hear you. That's why.
So, and for everyone knows, this is Greg Wintener from Group 1. Here, sir. Here, sir.
So talking about that decision making, can you think of the time that you can share with us where you had to make, I mean, obviously you had to make a lot of decisions rapid fire, but can you think of the time you had to make a real important, difficult decision? The process that went into that, and if you can share the outcome of that, good or bad, without getting too far into specifics, whether it be in your career or specifically as it relates to that.
Great question. I'm a big believer in the what if game. So when you have a time to plan, we talked a lot about structure, policy, protocols within the company. When you have time to make a decision where you can build a cross-cutting team across the organization, then you go into the planning process. The commander, in this case, the CEO, the president, or whoever's running that, kind of lays out the objectives. Here's where we believe we want to be, and everybody beats those up till you agree on where you want to be. You don't have a plan and wonder where it's going to take you. You know where you want to end. What's the end state? Where does the end state we want to achieve? You start with the end state. Then you back the ways and the means to achieve it into a comprehensive plan. And it's obviously balanced with resources available, time available, people available, financials available. And some of those will constrict you to the point where we'd really like to do this, but the train will be down the tracks 2 miles by the time we get this done. It won't have any impact. So all those factors come into it, and you're constantly going back to whoever gave you the mission as the planning team to check in with to make sure you stay on track. We know, and then what we do is if there are 3 ways to accomplish it, we pick the best way, and sometimes that's a hybrid. Sometimes a little of course A, a little of course B, and a lot of course C, and you call that the hybrid solution. But then you take the other 2 when time permits, and they become your what if. That's your playbook. So if there's a single point of failure on the course I selected, single point of failure meaning the enemy did something we didn't expect them to do, we're frozen in our tracks, everybody's looking back at you saying, hey, we're losing time, we're losing momentum, what are we going to do? You don't want to go back to the planning room and start over again. So these other courses, and we talked about it in the talk, you have a what if. What if this happens? The what ifs are easy to identify. Those are single points of failure and whatever you're about to do. So if we hit this, very simple. We get there and the bridge is gone. Oh my God, we can't cross the bridge. We're screwed. We stop. Or have your plan B was to go 3 miles down where there's a little water and we're going to build backfill some gravel. It might take us 3 or 4 hours, swing in and then hook up to continue the mission. We call them branch plans. A branch plan accomplishes the same mission, but uses a different approach. And there's many reasons why the main approach might not work. But if you don't have the what if, that'd be like Peyton Manning getting under center without an Omaha. He gets under there and he goes, oh my God, I was running a play and now guess who's standing in the hole where I was about to give the back to? And he's texting his mom to tell her what a great talk I'm at. But you look and he's standing in the hole. If I don't have any alternative, I run that poor back into that hole and we lose yardage. But if I look and go, single point of failure, go to my playbook. We go to Omaha, we go to course action B. And everybody is read into it. They all understand it and they know it. So you don't lose momentum. You just continue to roll towards the same mission, but with a little bit of a different approach. So on I guess it's like the 10th or 11th of November, we culminate so fast with the attack. The soldiers and the Marines in the attack were brilliant, and they crushed them on down. We're way ahead of schedule. And it turns out I didn't understand mechanized forces, Army tanks and Bradleys, how hard it was to rearm, refit, and refuel them for the continuation of the attack. So my incompetence and remember, they all showed up 3 days before the attack. We did it on the fly. Army units came down, said, I work for you now. It was a beautiful thing, but I didn't quite understand the logistics implications of that. So we were going to have to stop to execute our plan for 72 hours and give the enemy all that time to regroup and get back on their feet. So it's on the hood of a Humvee, and it was a great picture in the Marine Corps Gazette. I got this look on my face. The division commander is like, he's like rocking back, like, uh-oh. And then everybody else is kind of leaning away from the hood of the vehicle because I said, when do we attack? I still remember, when do we attack? And they said, sir, we'll be ready to go Sunday. I go, okay, Sunday. I go, what day's today? Because you just kind of lose track out there. Somebody goes, it's Thursday. I go, Thursday afternoon, we're waiting till Sunday? That's a non-starter. And on the hood of that vehicle, we just took it over. The division commander and I did. People cleared out. We were getting a little bit nose to nose because he wanted to stick with the plan. Moved off to the side. There's a great picture. We're on the ground on our knees. We're drawing in the dirt. No computers, no, it feeds in from Washington. The president's on the line with a recommendation. It's just two guys with 64 years of experience drawn in the dirt, moving a stone here and a stone there, changed the plan for 10,000 warriors. And we're out there, everybody can see it. And so we're maintaining our cordiality towards each other. He'd been my neighbor twice and we were great friends, but he had the 16,000 ground warriors and I had the whole show. And at the beginning, it was a little, he's 6'5" too. So I was touching his chin with my nose. Oh yeah, fix you. But it was one of those where no time for a planning team. This is it. We're moving in. I'll give you 32 hours. 32 hours, we move. You have a plan ready to go or you'll execute mine because my planners will have it ready to go. And that little friction on that. And the last thing I said to him was, Rich, are you behind this plan? Are you all in? He looked at me and said, sir, of course I'm all in. But I had to state my case. I go, I love it. State your case, but I just needed to know. We're all in, shook hands, and they crushed them. We changed the plan and they crushed them. We didn't do the fancy plan we had. We did a pretty much a bare knuckle plan. Didn't put anybody at any more risk. Matter of fact, by keeping the momentum going and pressure on the enemy, we took that mojo risk out that they may regain. So that was a big one on the fly right there. And you wish can I call a timeout? Can I have a red card? Can I go to my happy place for about an hour and think this through? It was prime time on the hood of a vehicle with a whole lot of people watching, and we solved it thanks to him and his leadership. He just turned the whole thing. We angled it, and off we went in 32 hours. But here's a classic, though. I get in the office, and my boss, 4-star, calls from Baghdad. He goes, hey, we saw you down there. You're on Mount Rock, Michigan. When do you cross? And I said, we cross in 32 hours. I cut it in half. And he goes, 32 hours? Are you kidding me? We can't let them get the momentum. He's me now, and I'm the other guy, except I cut it in half. So he's and I'm actually, my chief of staff said, sir, you stood up. You were like attention. I'm on the phone going, why are you on the phone? But out of courtesy, I'm standing at attention talking to my 4-star boss. And at the end, I go, are you giving me a direct order? This is where I was pretty high. I go, sir. And I love him. I said, sir, is this a direct order? Are you giving me a direct order to attack now? And it's quiet on the other side. He goes, I didn't say I was giving you a direct order. I'm giving you some advice based on a tour in Vietnam and Kosovo. He went on down through where he'd been. I go, thanks for your advice, sir. We'll attack in 32 hours. He goes, God bless you. Good luck. And he hung up. And I'm there. I mean, I was like, is it that easy? And the chief of staff came and go, oh, hell, sir, that was awesome. I go, what happened? I don't even know what happened. But so you can have that disagreement with subordinate or a disagreement with a superior, but when it was all said and done, I argued my case. But in his case, he looked at me and go, you're on the ground, you got it. Okay, 32 it is. I didn't say, but it was 70. I cut it in half. I didn't, that's not, wouldn't work for me. So General Casey, my boss, 4-star Army, who I love, said, go get him. And the junior, what I was not going to relent on, I was not going to let him 72 hours to rearm, refit, and bring replacements in. And he knows that. He knew it then. But he actually said, my men are tired. I remember that line. My men are tired, sir. They're tired. And I said, they're not as tired as the enemy is. And we know we're coming. We're breathing down their neck. We don't want to let them sleep, Rich. Come on. When you got the opponent on the mat and they're not going to tap out, you choke them out. And that's what we needed to do. So does that answer it? I think we're
So,
probably.
yeah, I just want you to know, well, in a few minutes, we have something. So he represents our largest client. So could you tell him there is no plan B? It's just plan A. Okay. So except.
When you have a solid plan A, plan B is collect dust on the wall. They go, someday at the college, we will teach these plan Bs. Just remember, on the mat, they don't tap out. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. No choking us out. No choking us out. Does anyone else have any other questions? We have a quick thing we want to do for the company. Any other questions?
Before you do just to close this chapter thing out, everybody in this room has the potential to be a world-class leader. Doesn't matter if you were number one in your class at wherever, or if you didn't even go to class at wherever, because you control. Remember what I talked about, when men and women look for leadership, and the real test is when that big event comes. I might be in charge because I have a placard on my desk, but if all the men and women look over here for guidance and direction when the adrenaline rush comes, then you start to figure out who the real leader is inside the organization. So you all have that capability and capacity. It's earned, not given, and it's earned each and every day. And just try to make yourself and the men and women who work for you better, 1 iota better each day. 365 iotas in a year. That's a hell of a positive growth for an organization. So thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity. And hey, I learned a lot while I was here. So I'm walking away. I'm smarter. I'm not taller. I'm not good looking. I'm not rich, but I am smarter. I got 1 out of 4. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Hoorah.
About a few weeks ago, we have these board calls on Fridays sometimes, and there's all this prep work, and it was finally done, and it was a Saturday morning, and I thought, oh, I'm so glad that was over with. I can just relax, and I do that oftentimes on Saturdays by going on a run, and I was out there in the morning. It was a nice, peaceful, beautiful sunrise. Everything was going well, and I wasn't really paying attention. And General Sattler was walking that morning with his wife, and I was running by, and all I heard was, "Pick it up, McCloy." I was like, man. Now 3 stars yelling at me like, I can't get out now. And so when I was asking him and he was gracious enough to say yes to come visit us, I said, sir, if I see you this week, I will pick it up. He said, don't be a peacock. Stop peacocking. Don't run past me. I was like, all right. So
when I was younger, that was when you ran by, they go, wow, look at the corner. Look who's standing there. And you see all these old guys go, and they go, we called it peacocking because we'd say you go into full plume,
Yeah.
As soon as you get around the corner, your belly comes out again.
Yeah, I was
You were
peacocking.
looking good, though.
Yeah, no, I was peacocking. So one thing that's important that we want to do, and our team, we as we mentioned, the wall up on this wall over here, we have those slices of wood. And as a reminder, the reason we put the wood up there is because when a tree grows, every year it has another ring, as we all know, and that represents the years of growth. If you look at the ring, the innermost part of the ring is light colored, and the outermost part of that ring is dark. The outermost part of that ring is very thin compared to the other part. So during the spring and summer, in the warm months, the tree grows a lot faster, and that represents the thicker part of that ring. That's the light color. The dark part of that ring is the growth that's represented by winter growth. So when it's really cold, it's really hard to grow. So that's why it doesn't grow as much. But all that those dark rings represent the entire foundational strength of a tree above ground. So when it's hardest to grow is when you create that foundational strength. So that's why we put those up, and we're starting to come in and think about these Hall of Fame moments. As when we think about this, sort of what events have happened in the company that were challenging, but represented really sort of foundational growth for the company and changed the way we do things. And we certainly have a lot of them. RT was great when we were talking about these. He says, look, we can't do these all the time. It's like, this is Hall of Fame means it takes some time to understand the big changes certain things have made in the company. We were going through, thinking through these, and we got some feedback from some folks. And I really want to say everybody in the company, anyone with ideas about what we think is a Hall of Fame moment in this company, please, we're always looking for, suggestions, nominations of what that represents. And it's an event, not a person, because we all make these events happen. So to bring it back, when we, first came into the business, it was far different. And there's some familiar faces here who were here when that happened. And so it was, there was no plan A, plan B, nor plan C. We were just, what is going on? But one thing we knew was the first board meeting, and we had a board meeting, and we said, you know what, so I know we bought a business in this industry that services automotive dealers. Actually, Greg Wintoner from, could you just, so I know that, when we bought this business, we're servicing automotive dealers, and we thought we bought this proprietary technology, which was great at the time, but we need to change that, as in now. So we are going to try to do something completely different. So that is not a popular thing to say to the board. And they were wondering, we said, look, the industry is changing, and we have to do something very fast. So, and that was moving, from primarily sort of an analog plane. And we said, obviously the future, the next arc is going to be on a new platform. And for us to actually grow and to innovate and do something different, we know we can't be on that. Number one, and we don't know who we're supposed to be. So are we a surveillance company? Are we a central station software company, which we had? Are we an analytics company developing those? We were doing everything all at once. And we said, no, we got to focus on what we're supposed to do. So we said, you know what, we just have to move to an entirely new IP backbone and try to do our surveillance in the cloud, which is based on this sort of, this new, IP-based systems. And none of us actually knew how to do that. We sat there, and we actually, RT was speaking with someone who was at the company one time, and he said, I was speaking to one of the subcontractors. I was talking about IP, and he said, I thought he was going to start, going to the bathroom on my shoe. And I said, it was really that, it was pretty crazy. And all of a sudden we said, well, we got to make this happen. And we had an idea of what it was supposed to be, but we had the components. We said, all right, we're gonna go get this. And I remember speaking to Johnny B, John Balthrop, and it was a Friday, and I came back and I said, so I just had my first demo with a company, or two demos, and I think we've got them on the hook for an IP-based system. I had no demo to show. We actually didn't even have one at the time, and so. And I said, Johnny B, but we got to get them. They want a proposal tomorrow, and we're going up against ADT and all these big folks. And so Johnny B said, all right, let's get after it. Scotty H we're all looking at what to do here. And so it was a Friday night, and we sat until about 11 o'clock that night, working with, at the time with Vigilon, and designing a system, thinking this will never happen, but we're just going to go for it. And by golly, that Monday or Tuesday, we caught the bumper. I mean, it's like a dog chasing a car, and then, actually catches the bumper. And we got the email back and said, all right, we're going to go with you over all these big established players. And there is an expression that we say a lot here, right? And we thought, all right, well, nothing like a deadline. We got to go do it, and we've got to make it happen. And it was amazing. And what we want to do is, we're going to put a plaque representing the wood. Excuse us, we sort of designed this in chicken scratch and burn this on another burn on another plaque. Is nothing like a deadline up top. And RT said no longer an analog, no longer analog dependent. But the idea is, obviously what we ended up doing is, obviously it's created an entirely new analytics platform for us, as we've been doing. And that was early on. This was, almost 9 years ago. And so it just brought us into new ways, and obviously started doing all of our surveillance in the cloud in a way when it didn't even work. And we're going to go through this as we sort of call out some of the folks. But what it's also done is enabled us to now, if you think about all these years later, building out an entire sensor backbone, and in just getting into that realm, helping us sort of expand, really ideate and be expansive as a company. So it's now we've got an entirely new, product team. that we've built on top of that. And we think about all the analytics and how we drive our surveillance. Think about how we use our team in Mexico. I mean, it can be done now because of these early decisions, and it was challenging. It was hard. That was the longest install ever, but we got it up and we got it and we learned from it. And, we had to bob, weave, pivot, but we made it happen. So this will go up on the wall. This is done. That was in 2011. We do have on here, our core values: act as a team, be solutions driven, and commit and deliver. I was thinking act with integrity, selling a system that didn't really exist at the time. Well, let's just keep act with integrity off the off. No, but what was really important is we rallied, and we're going to recognize some folks here. Yeah, 3 out of 4 ain't bad, right? So no, but really, yeah. No, but we knew we could do it. We had confidence, and we did. So, and that's, but when we think about coming together as a team, we rallied. We figured out solutions to make that happen for the customer, and we really did. And then what we did is we committed to the customer, and we delivered solidly. So that was important, and it has changed the trajectory of what we do today as a business. So we want to take some time and just recognize some folks who were really part of that transformational change.
The first person I'd like to recognize was really someone who had these systems were actually more complicated than the Saturn cars. That was really basically all of his camera experience before he joined Eyewitness. But Sean Marshall stepped up in a big way with very little. I mean, if you don't think we have training now, you should know what the training was like back in 2011. But Sean, but Sean Marshall stepped up in a big way at one of our first IP systems at Academy Ford, and that is still one of our best customers today, largely on the back of the work that Sean did so many years ago. So first of all, Sean, we'd like to recognize you for your contribution.
You always press a coin. Oh, holy hell, wait a minute. You two, you guys are going to face off.
Yeah, right.
Hey, congratulations. Love an impact player. Hoorah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I mentioned this, not just that first Friday night till 11, but then when they said that they needed a second center shortly thereafter, they called us in and they said, okay, we're going to do this next big center. We have a meeting with all the Turner Construction and their entire IT and development team. We want you there at the table so we can talk through how we're supposed to construct our new site around your systems. So Johnny B and I, we showed up at the meeting. They're asking us questions. We felt like spies like us, and yeah, you should do. I was looking at him, he was looking at me, but we, fake it till you make it. No, but we said it twice. They believed us, and it worked. But I will say we got in the trenches and we made it happen. You're always, obviously pivotal then and to this day. So Johnny B, another big player to make all this stuff happen.
Nothing. You got nothing. Two. All right, here we go. Throw you the souffle.
Hey, man.
Thank you.
Say it twice. We talked, the general opened today with a story about logistics, right? And how important it is out of the gate, where it's not just the people who are out, for us in the field getting things installed, but actually it's so critical, the people who are actually getting the stuff there, the people who have the back of the people who are actually out in the field. And no one took more initiative in learning and understanding how to support the people in the field than Pat Trexler did. He took it on himself to go through IPVM training, actually figured out how analytics should get set, actually figured out how these systems were going to get commissioned. No one asked him to do it. He just saw the opportunity, stepped up, and we all benefited from the knowledge that Pat took the initiative to get for himself. So, Pat, we wanted to recognize you. Thank you very much.
All this Navy talent. Senior chief?
No, just chief.
Just chief. Oh, yeah,
Just
pretty
the chief.
humble on that.
Just the chief. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Rush. Thanks a lot, man.
Pretty hard to hide in that
Thanks a lot.
shirt. You're right out there.
So with that, after JB and I, that when they did that second center, it was Thanksgiving Day, actually, when we sat and started designing those systems. There was only one person that then actually had to take those maps, and you think about some of those design maps, and go make that happen at the new center. And I mean, pivotal to everything that we did, and bringing that install in and bringing, Passport shortly thereafter on the same, actually simultaneously to that. Scotty H, you were the man, and come up. We've got a recognition for you.
It is a team effort.
I think we could have won the Battle of Fallujah with this crew. I gotta say.
It was hard enough getting everything installed, but that was just the beginning, because then we actually had to figure out how to monitor it. Everything we had done at that point had all been on analog systems and run through VG, which is there are actually probably some people who are sitting out there who don't even know what that is. But on our old, sorry, that's right. And so but as part of moving on to this new platform, the team in the monitoring center had to figure out how this was actually going to work, what the process was going to be, how to staff for it, how to actually watch and react to these new systems that we were putting in. And between the very first sites, or even bringing things into IMIX, and actually trying to train people like, this is how we need to do it, it would be totally irresponsible not to recognize the efforts of Jeff McDaniel and Herb Kelton for all the work they did to help us move on to a new IP platform. Now, Jeff, is recovering. He can't be here today. So Herb, I'd like you to come on up, and on behalf of you and Jeff, please come up for recognition for the efforts.
No public display of affection.
Bullshit. And the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps core values:
Right.
honor, courage,
and
and commitment. We got it, and you showed all three of them. Hoorah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Do you think he'll give that one to the?
I know. Now I
don't trust it.
keep it. He might say, I got two.
So we have two more, and one was when this gentleman arrived. So we were recruiting Lee at the time, and we had a former IT director at the business that was there to start to engage and mentor and teach and train. And so Lee shows up the first day, and we said, well, yeah, actually, he is no longer at the company. So you kind of have this, we've just gone to new platform and protocol, and we've got to get all these new analytics done and transferred. And you had such can-do attitude when you came in, was unbelievable, of just trying to learn it, and you still do. And just want to thank you and recognize certainly all the work you did in those early years to try to figure out what we're supposed to do and how we do it. So thank you, Lee.
Stoop down a little.
And how can we even say the word IMIX without in the same sentence saying the name of Mr. Mark Vickerman? So where integrity really comes into the equation, and we were recruiting Mark to join the company, and we had a lot to wade through, and getting all the old systems and continuing to keep them going, trying to find some permutations of encrypted passwords. It was a lot to do. A lot. But I will say, I don't think you were surprised coming in because we just said, there's a lot to do. When can you start? And oh yeah, the server room. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a quagmire, but and when we came in, we were the first, literally the industry right now uses Imix, our central station platform. We were the first company on their cloud platform. Imix didn't even know how it worked. And Mark architected that entire cloud platform. So the cloud on that poorly designed wood piece, where so much of the industry is using it, he basically helped them architect it so it would work for us. Now they've stolen that, and now it's across the industry. So I mean, I feel like we should get a fee for that. But really, it made it work, and that was not complaining about it. Those were a lot of late nights. That was moving offices at the same time, coming over here. And so that made it happen. And now when we think about building out tracks, we think about smartphones, all the new products that are still trying to, getting into Imix based on the architecture that have been built to the cloud. So again, that was a long time ago when that happened, but that is so fundamental to who we are and what we do today. So thank you, Mark.
Congratulations, Mark. Thanks for your superb contribution.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I thought you were giving it back. I heard there's a bonus that comes along with it. They don't know that yet, but I just threw it out there. So.
Can we give it up to all the old parts?
Well, first of all, General, just in terms of wrapping things up, I think I can speak on behalf of everyone here at Eyewitness. Thank you very, very much for coming today. Thank you very, very much for your service to our country. If we could get a round of applause for the General, please. We have
Labor of love, a labor of love, just like this. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 4 core values here at Eyewitness: act with integrity, act as a team, be solutions driven, and commit and deliver. And the highest award that you can get, or one can get at Eyewitness, is when someone is recognized by their peers for having embodied and lived all 4 of those core values. And on behalf of everyone here at Eyewitness, it's my honor to give you what we do to recognize people here for embodying those values, your own command coin. And now, having watched you, I know how to do it.
You do.
Yeah!
Oh, yeah, baby. That's it. It's imprinted.
That's it. Now it's in there.
Excellent. Wow. I finally arrived. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time today, General.
Thank you.
Great.
I had a blast. Thank you. I love the energy. I mean, this is a low energy companies, as I told you, go nowhere. This company's going somewhere. It's already there. But remember, complacency kills. That'll be my last word. Do not become complacent. They'll pass you. They'll kick your butt. So stay after it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
That concludes this episode of Eyewitness Surveillance Live.
As everybody walks out, will you grab a chair,
Why-
please,
I'm trying to put
and
values, and I'll
put
go.
them back where they belong?
You do know you have.
You know where they belong?
Yeah, I just haven't done it for a while. This is,
And then these?
I never go